Well, that's a tough act to follow. So, I mean, I don't know if it's very new. When Dennis invited me back, I said, I haven't really done a lot of new research on this. But Dennis says, oh, you'll work something out. So, yeah, I mean, I worked very intensely with the Matsigenka on ethnobotany, hunting medicine, shamanism, ethnoecology from about the late 80s to the late 90s. And then in the early 2000s, I switched focus to something a bit more applied, looking at hunting management, hunting sustainability, a participatory study with the Matsigenka to about 2010. And since then, my work with the Matsigenka, where's the clicker? How does this thing work? Yeah, I got it. So since 2010, I've been mostly focused on actually a clean water and sanitation project, looking at like applied healthcare things. So I haven't really done a lot of new research on this, although I guess, so some of you have saw my talk at last time, or I've given talks in Michael Koh's class and Mark's class. So you may have seen some of this stuff before. But I am trying to, put it in a little bit new context. So just so you know, there's not all of what you see is new. But I wanted to start with a mystery story. As we were driving up I was in the bus with Wade, and I said, wow, look at this 400-year-old English manor. It's the perfect place for one of those Agatha Christie closed-door murder mysteries, like which ethnobotanist put the digitoxin in the chai, and killed the victim. So, but I also think that it's interesting, it's important. I mean, with a group of presenters like this, Paul Stamets, Dennis Mckenna, Wade, Mark, Elaine. There's all these people who are these formative figures in this discipline, and it can be kind of a little bit intimidating for younger people. To it's like you sort of get the feeling like what's all been done, or and what I want to emphasize is that there's still, the elders that are here before us presenting their information, they've left this incredible body of knowledge, but there's still so much to be done, and there's still so much mystery out there, and so this is a mystery that I experienced. I was identifying these plants in the Field Museum. Freezing myself to death in the Field Museum in January, and you bring all these delicate plants from the Amazon, and here's this freezing cold in the Field Museum in Chicago during a blizzard. And I'm identifying these plants, and there was this one plant that I collected. I'll talk about it a little bit in a bit, but I had this nice fertile collection, and I just couldn't figure out what the heck it was. Oh God, I'm such an incompetent botanist. So I went to Robin Foster, who's the specialist on the Manu Flora. I said, I can't figure out what this thing is. What is it? And he goes, aha, the mystery plant. And they'd collected, they had dozens of, I had some fertile samples, they'd collected lots of fertile samples. They couldn't even figure out what family it was. 1997. Fast forward, what is it? What's the date? It's like October 2021, just last year. They finally did the genetics on this, and they figured out what it was. It's actually what we used to call Cimarubaceae, now called Picramniaceae. And they gave this kind of funny name, Enigmanu, the Manu mystery plant. It's kind of a weird name. But anyway, this new species, this new genus of Picramniaceae. But what's that little footnote in the bottom there? So the Matsigenka use this as a hunting medicine, an emetic plant. So it's actually not a new discovery. It's a new discovery for science, but actually the Matsigenka have been using it. And often the case, these quote-unquote new discoveries, they come from indigenous, the indigenous people already know about this stuff. So this is a conference on psychoactive plants, but like an emetic hunting medicine, that's not psychoactive. What am I doing even talking about this? Well, the closest word to psychoactive or psychedelic in the Matsigenka language is kepigari. And it comes from this interesting, the verb root piga means to return, like no pigaki, I came home. But it also means to turn around or to spin on an axis, this idea of going and coming back. And then by extension, it's an agglutinative language, so you add roots, you add suffixes and prefixes. So with different prefixes, it means to spin around, to feel dizzy, nauseous, to be intoxicated, poison. So the word kepigari refers to toxic, poisonous, intoxicating plants. Kind of like what was it? bu, no, was it gu, or what was the word? Du, huh? Du, yeah, it's kind of like that concept. So this is the closest thing to like psychoactive would be this. It refers to psychoactive plants, but they don't dissociate the psychoactive from the emetic, from the caustic, from the toxic. So in the words that we use, hallucinogenic, psychedelic, psychoactive, they reinforce the mind-body duality. And you want to control, we want to get rid of the psychoactive and only have the neurogenic benefits. And even this word entheogenic puts it into this spiritual context, whereas the Matsigenka word kepigari just means it's toxic, it intoxicates me. And they don't separate out these like the physical nausea from the psychoactive part. That concept doesn't exist. And so these Matsigenka hunting, what do we call these things? Hunting charms? No, because they ingest them. They're not things that you wear on your neck. Well, let's just call it hunting magic. When you read the anthropological literature, they call this hunting magic. I don't think it's magic. As Arthur Clarke said, magic is just another word for technology. So I call them the way the Matsigenka call them. I call them medicines. They call them medicines. It's part of their medicinal knowledge. Now the Matsigenka, they're an Arawakan-speaking people. The Arawakan language is the largest language family in South America. It goes all the way from Cuba, probably Florida before contact, all the way down to southern Brazil. It's actually a larger language family extension than the Inca Empire. It's a huge pre-Columbian language group of families, and the Matsigenka is one of the southernmost versions of the family. Now, the Matsigenka that I work with live in Manu National Park. There are about 13,000 Matsigenka people in all in the lower Urubamba, upper Urubamba, Madre de Dios, and then Manu National Park. Manu National Park it's 1.8 million hectares. It's Peru's first national park. It was established in 1973. It's the Yosemite of Peru. But unlike Yosemite, where we kicked out the Chumash Indians to make room for this natural park, the Matsigenka continue to live in Manu National Park and other indigenous peoples. There's 4 Matsigenka communities in the park. Guns, because it is a national park, guns are formally prohibited. The Matsigenka still hunt mostly with bow and arrows. And it's a global biodiversity hotspot. It actually has the largest terrestrial mammal, not diversity, but like biodiversity in the world. It's a very high spot, and yet it's this huge biodiversity, huge terrestrial mammal populations, and then there's these native indigenous language and cultural diversity living with it. But it's called a living Eden, but it's not much of an Eden, because if you look at this map right here, anyone's heard of the Isthmus of Fitzcarraldo? That's it. So that, from the Mishago River to the upper Manu River, that's where Carlos Fermin Fitzcarraldo, the infamous rubber baron who was immortalized in Werner Herzog's film, that's where he took his boat across. He took it from one basin and took it across the Isthmus of Fitzcarraldo into the Manu River and then wiped out the indigenous people who were there. And so the Matsigenka today, they're the people who fled off into the forest and became isolated, uncontacted. All the indigenous people that worked in the rubber camps, most of them were killed. So the Matsigenkas are the survivors of this genocide at the turn of the 20th century for our cars, right, and bicycle tires. Now this realm of Matsigenka hunting plants, it's actually pretty significant. About 25% of the pharmacopoeia, the medicinally used plants, using this broad concept of medicine, not our concept of medicine, their concept of medicine. About 25% of their plants are these hunting medicines, and they're caustic, toxic, psychoactive plants that they use to improve their ability to hunt. Kobinsari means to have good aim, but it's not just, it's about having good aim. I mean, they use a whole bunch of eye drop plants, a lot of rubiaceae, a lot of psychotria rubiaceae things they put in their eyes, and they say it makes your vision better, like the harpy eagle. Pakitsa is the harpy eagle. The Matsigenka say that the harpy eagle came to Earth in human form and taught human beings these plants to make humans see like harpy eagles. But there's also a whole category of emetic plants and emetic and purgative plants. And the idea here is that a hunter, for example, if a hunter wounds an animal with an arrow and the animal escapes and dies in the forest and then stinks, right? Well, that animal has an owner. The animal owners, they're called the sangarite. And so the animal owner says, who's wasting my bounty? This hunter killed the animal and went off into the forest. Or when, for example, when a man's wife is cooking the pot of meat and the pot boils over, there's that foam at the top of the pot that has like little bits of meat, and it falls into the fire and it burns, and that smell goes off into the forest. And the Sangariti, who's wasting my bounty? Menstrual blood is considered to be a smell that is offensive to the Sangariti. So if a man has any contact with a menstruating woman, that rotten blood odor. All of these odors, these carrion odors, rotten meat, burnt meat, menstrual blood, it accumulates in the man's body/soul, and when he goes to the forest to hunt, the spirits say, the Sangariti smell him, say he smells like carrion. We're going to hide the animals. He doesn't see the animals. They say he gets inhabited by the vulture spirit. And the idea of these emetics and purgative plants is that you get rid of the rotten smell, the rotten flesh that sort of, it contaminates your body with this odor of vultures, of carrion. And so it's not, I mean, it's about improving your vision. You can see better to kill the animals, but it's also your ability to see animals in the first place, because when you lose your kobinsari, they say, I lost my kobinsari, I lost it. You go to the forest and you can't even see animals in the first place because the game animal spirit masters hide them from you. So it's about seeing better, but seeing in the first place, attention, like being able to see the animals. And then, of course, there's another group of plants that we would they call all of them kepigari. They're all poisons, right? There's the psychoactive, like fully psychoactive plants. And the idea of things, they use ayahuasca, brunfelsi. The idea is that you can come into direct contact with these sangariti, these spirit beings, and you can make deals, you sort of cut deals with them, negotiate for access to the animals. We'll let you have some of they raise the game animals as if they were their pets. Don't ask me about kambo. Everyone says kambo. They don't, the frog occurs there, they have a name for it, they call it yellow pants. They eat it, they're not a treat to get rid of it, but they don't use kambo. So everyone asks me about kambo, they don't use it. Next question. Now, there's 25% of the Matsigenka pharmacopoeia is hunting medicines, and then there's another 25% of pharmacopoeia. It's like this equal gender balance, which are plants that women use to protect their children, especially newborn babies, from the vengeance of animals that have been killed. And so the idea is that if a woman's husband kills an animal, then that animal spirit becomes angry and comes back to the family as this cloud of game animals have this sort of musky, garlicky kind of odor. A lot of animals have scent glands and so on, and especially the large adult males have these scent glands, and so they say that odor, that musky odor, the spirit of the animal comes in the form of that musky odor, that then the baby smells this spirit odor, the spirit musky odor, and starts crying and starts throwing up or having diarrhea or getting skin rashes. And so and this is called puigaseta gansi. Puigaseta gansi, they call it in Peru, they call it kutipa. And the idea of kutipa or puigaseta, it's like tit for tat revenge. It's like you did something to me, I'm going to pay you in the same coin. And so when the hunter kills an animal, the game animal says, I'm going to go kill his family. Puigaseta gansi, I'm going to go return it. And so this 25% of the pharmacopoeia are these fragrant and sticky. The idea is that some of them are fragrant, some of them are sticky. The idea is that the sticky components sticks the odor to the children's skin. And so these newborn babies, from about the time they're born to about 3 months, the mother gives them baths about 3 times a day in this warm herbal decoction of fragrant plants. And the idea is that it creates this fragrant force field around the child, so that when the game animal spirit comes up, surrounded by that musky odor, it gets scared away and goes away, and the child doesn't get sick. And this describes, so that's half of their pharmacopoeia, is hunting plants that men use to kill animals. It's like each plant for specific animals, and then women use these fragrant plants, specific plants for specific animals, to protect the children from the animals that are being hunted. And it describes this sort of ecological feedback loop. The hunter become the prey, this reversal. And then there's a concept I developed, sensory ecology, how the odors and the tastes, these relationships between different biological, humans and plants and animals and spiritual beings are mediated through these concrete sensory experiences. One of the hunting plants is ayahuasca, actually. You know, the Quechua name, they say, means vine of the soul or vine of the dead. The Matsigenka get right down to the point. They call it kamanampi, vomiting medicine. Now, the Matsigenka use Banisteriopsis caapi. They use cultivated varieties of Banisteriopsis. They don't, well, I mean, it's changing now, but they tend to not use the wild version because the cultivated version you can break with your hand. They don't like cutting it. And they, more recently, they've used Psychotria. They used to use Banisteriopsis without Psychotria, with other plants. Only recently, since the 60s, curiously enough, it was the same Matsigenka bilingual guide who brought the Protestant missionaries to the Matsigenka Manu, who also showed them Psychotria. So, you know, these historical ironies. If there's time at the end and you have questions, I can talk more about that, which is kind of interesting. But to focus on hunting, the Matsigenka actually, this whole sort of ayahuasca healing, vegetalismo, they're not, traditionally at least, they use ayahuasca for hunting. They don't really use it for healing, or they didn't so much. I say, I take ayahuasca, the next day I go and kill 2 monkeys. And so it causes physical purging, you know, and that's about getting rid of the carrion odor that's contaminating your body. And you negotiate, you meet the sangarite and you negotiate with them. The word sangarite, it means the invisible, well, sanka, it can mean like clear water, transparent, water that's clear, sankari. It means clear water. It means both clear, pure, and transparent, and invisible. So the sankariti are both the invisible ones and the pure or clean ones, right? And so this seems to be, in other groups you find this, the ayahuasca healing tradition is sort of taken over these days, and people forget that that was probably laid on top of an older tradition where ayahuasca and other psychoactive plants were used in this broader concept of health with ecological health, where you use the plant to maintain positive interactions with the natural world, with the hunting, with animals and so on. Now, it's interesting, the Matsigenka only take ayahuasca in the rainy season. That's in the rainy season, there's lots of fruits that become, fruits are ripe, and the game animals, especially the monkeys, are fatter. And they actually don't hunt monkeys in the dry season at all. And we, in the hunting study, we found this. It's very clear. And the hunter says, I would actually kill it, but my wife says, she says, why did you bring this skinny monkey? Why are you bringing this skinny monkey? So I just hunt them in the rainy season when they're fat. And so they take the ayahuasca in the rainy season to be hunters, and the dry season is marked. Especially, there's this plant called puigoro. It's a vernonia. It's kind of like coyote bush, kind of that idea. It's a little bit like a like a coyote bush. It's a composite, a daisy family. I mean a dandelion family, and daisy too. And it's these tiny little like dandelion seeds that fly in the wind. And so this plant, it starts to bloom. It's very common in garden areas, in old gardens like garden fallows, and it grows everywhere. And the seeds, the flowers start flowering about June, end of May, early June, and then by July, August, they fly off like dandelions. And they say you can't take ayahuasca when the puigoro is blooming because that's when the sangariti are burning they're like us. They have villages, they have gardens, and so in the dry season we cut down our gardens and then we burn them and then plant. And the Matsigenka the same way. In the dry season they cut down their gardens and they burn them. And so if you take ayahuasca in the dry season, there's all these fires out there and you could get burned and die. And you sort of think, this is sort of mystery number 2. You think, well, it could be, maybe symbolic, this idea of the white flowers, the dandelion flowers flying, and maybe it's just a belief. This is real, because one time I was getting ready to leave. It was like the end of May, and they said, "Oh, you're going back. We're not going to see you all. We have to take one last time. Let's take ayahuasca one last time." And it's still hunting season. And I said, "But isn't the vernonia? Isn't the puigoro? It was already the little white buds were coming." I said, "I think is that you sure? Well, it's no problem. You're about ready to leave. We probably wouldn't do it normally, but it's fine. Let's do it. It's your last time." And we took it, and every one of us felt it. It was there was this hot breeze of fire coming out. Everywhere you looked outside you, there was like these flames and this hot breeze coming from the this plant grows everywhere, all around the villages in the old garden sites, and everyone felt it and saw it. Like they were like, "Ooh boy, no more of that," until the pagoda's all gone. So I don't know what it is, whether it's maybe who knows what it is? Maybe the alkaloid concentrations change in the ayahuasca or the psychoactive during the dry season, or maybe the Sangarite are just making their fires. I felt it, so hard to deny that. Now the Sangarite gardens, that leads me to a third mystery story. There's this plant called Cordia nodosa, and it's got these hairs all along the stems, and it's got these little nodes. And it basically creates this symbiotic relationship with several different ant species. And so the cordia gives the ants housing, and the little these very prickly spines prickly hairs on the plants. They make these corridors, so ants of a certain size can get in there. So if ants smaller than that get in there, they can kill them. Ants bigger than that can't get in there. So it really provides protection to the ants. And so the cordia give the ants housing, and then the ants protect the cordia. They cut the leaves under them. In Peru they call them supai chakra, the devil's gardens. And they clear out these clearings under the plants. And you can see in this picture, there's like a cleared area around the forest. And these places, the Matsigenka recognize this symbiotic relation. They know the plant. Their word for cordia is matianida, which means the mother of the ant. So that they know that the ant lives there, and so that it's called matianido is the ant. Matianidoki is the plant, and they call the ants irite. So the matianidoki is the plant, and then irite are these small beings. Irite are the little ants, the little critters that inhabit it, irite. And that's the same root in sangarite. So the sangarite are these little ites. They're these beings that are, ite gives a sense of like anything that's like multitudinous small things, like, I don't know, gnats or something. Ite, like lots and lots of ants, small gnats. So sangarite are the clean / invisible / pure little multitudinous things. And the ants, irite, are the multitudinous ants of this thing. So they recognize the symbiotic relationship between the ants and the trees, and they recognize that they make these supai chakra. They call them okarapayi, you heard this word okarapayi appears in ayahuasca songs. Okarapayi tekat. So they sing these songs about these places. They're these, they call them ikaros, these songs about okarapayi. It becomes this mystical term because that's where the Sangarite live. That is their village, and they take. In the old days, they would take young shamans to these places and give them these massive doses of brugmansia, like a datura brugmansia, and they would spend 3 days there. And this is where the Sangarite live, and they have their gardens. And so the shamans go to these places and take tobacco or ayahuasca or brugmansia, and they spend, especially on brugmansia, they'll spend 3 or 4 days wandering around the forest, and they come back with a new manioc clipping. Manioc is reproduced vegetatively, and there's a new manioc stem, and this is a new variety that the Sangarite gave me. Piripiri, the cypress, medicinal cypress, we'll talk about that later, they get the medicinal cypress new bulbs from the Sangarite. And Mariano, who's my Matsigenka father and my master, he personally brought two or three manioc varieties in the village. They said, yeah, Mariano brought that back from the Sangarite. I interviewed him, his master, his ayahuasca master, who's been dead a long time. He brought back 8 manioc varieties from the spirit world, and those are still cultivated today. So they say without shamans, you don't have new crop varieties, and the crops can die out. So the shamans are a source of agrobiodiversity. And of course, also being there, the Sangarite own the animals, and that's how you negotiate. Well, and I've seen them do this. They're like negotiating, like, I haven't killed a monkey in a while. I've got children to feed, and they'll negotiate with the Sangarite to give, or we haven't had peccaries in a while. The peccaries have been underground; they've been hidden. It's time to bring the peccaries out, and they'll play their flutes, these peccary bone flutes, and they're calling the peccaries back from underground. And the shamans, Matsigenka shamans, they cultivate a spirit twin, Ige, brother, it's like a twin that lives among the Sangari. And when they take ayahuasca, they switch places. So my buddy Doug Yu, he's actually here. He's at East Anglia in Norwich. He's a professor. He's an American, Chinese American, studied at Harvard under E.O. Wilson, the great ant scholar who passed away recently. And he was studying cordia relationships with these ants, and there's several species of ants, and he does all these calculations about, depending on the density of the cordia, you get different ant species who take over the system because of different aspects. And he was up in visiting me. We've done a lot of work together, and since he was interested in cordia, I said, well, this is the spirit gardens, and what the Matsigenka say is this is where the Sangarite they burn their gardens, which is why we can't take ayahuasca in the summer. Look, see the scar marks on the tree? The tree's covered in these black scar marks. That's the fires, that's the scars caused by the Sangarite fires. And Doug's like, what is that? I've never seen that before. And he sticks his plant clipper in there, and there's like millions of these Myrmellakista ants that are living in the trees. And there are two species, main species, that inhabit this ecological system. And there's a third species, Myrmellakista, they're like the weakest one, and they're much less common in the system. And Doug was like, why do they even persist in the system? There's two species that, in certain ecological conditions, one dominates the other one. And this was like the third outlier species. Well, it shouldn't be there. Until he came to Yomiwato, where the Matsigenka live, where the cordia occurs at even lower density, and then they're the main species. And what they do is they gall the plant, they inject formic acid into the plant tissues, and they create this housing for themselves. And it's the first recorded instance of ants galling tree. This is an argument that goes back to Wallace and Bateson had this debate, do ants gall trees? Anyway, this shamanic observation about spirits burning their gardens led to this scientific discovery that was published in the American Naturalist about ants galling trees. And so, and I'm not saying that it's not that the science explains away, it's really ants or whatever, but it's interesting, this sort of fractal idea of multi-species relationships, this multiverse where, the Matsigenka aren't saying the same thing we're saying about this space, but you can see how it's like the Sangarite live there. There's lots of them. It doesn't look like much, but when you take ayahuasca and go there, you can see all of these. They say there's Sangarite everywhere. They're all over the place. It's like a huge city. There's millions of them everywhere. They have these huge gardens. And there's this macrocosm, microcosm, where they're seeing the ecological relationship. They're seeing there's an ants that live there. The ants have their housing there. And their worldview, they put this sort of other layer onto that. And so it's the scientists and the shaman. I wrote this thing called The Ant, the Shaman, and the Scientist. The scientists and the shamans aren't saying the same thing, but they are talking about something that has kind of there's a dialogue that can go on there. They're not incompatible worldviews. They have this sort of superimposed quality to them. One of the most important hunting medicines is Brunfelsia. They call it chirisanango in Peru. Chirisanango means cold medicine or cold plant. And when you take it, it makes you cold, and the Matsigenka, it makes your fingers and toes. There's like this, they say, the Matsigenka is tseki, 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 tseki. It's like little needles in your fingers and toes. It makes you cold, but it gives you this like tingling sensation, this kind of unpleasant in your fingers and toes. And the Matsigenka say they say this plant comes from the harpy eagle, and that tseki, 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 that feeling of being needled by the plant, that is the physical manifestation of the harpy eagle spirit infusing your body. Of course, it's Brugmansi's classical solanaceae has all of these tropane alkaloids. There's some studies on Brunfelsia that shows that it has, in Peruvian folk medicine, Amazon folk medicine, they use it for rheumatism and so on. So it seems to have an anti-inflammatory effect. But it also causes visions. When young men are, in 12, 13, the Matsigenka will give their son a big dose of Brunfelsia, and they'll spend like 2 or 3 days having this effect, and that sort of initiates them so they'll be good hunters. And there's a bunch of, Tim Plowman worked on the botany of this genus, the ethnobotany of the genus, and there's a bunch of there's a bunch of species, and the Matsigenka recognize a number of folk species. I don't know how they correspond with the actual, with the botanical names, but there's Sankenkiro, Oshetopari, and they use the root. They dig up the root and use it. So Oshetopari means monkey root, because you use the root to be a good monkey hunter. Shimakwa, shima is fish, so that used to be a good hunter with bows and arrows fish. And Pakitsapari is the root of the harpy eagle. Again, the harpy eagle is the epitome of good hunting for the Matsigenka. But that brings us to mystery number 4, Kawiniri. There's another species of Brunfelsia called Kawiniri, and I've never collected it. I've asked people about it. I don't know if this is because they say it's not there, it grows in the headwaters, doesn't grow here. But they've told me that kind of stuff before, and I found out later that it's not true. I think that they're scared of it, and for good reason. I've never collected it. I don't know what it is. And this is an excerpt, curious enough, from a Summer Institute of Linguistics missionary Bible, Freudian slip, a missionary dictionary of the Matsigenka language, and there's an entry for Kawi. I was surprised to even find, why would a missionary put this in their dictionary? And it just sort of, this is, to me, sort of illustrates the importance of indigenous languages. The language is resistance. The fact that the Protestant missionary who she and her family tried to suppress the use of ayahuasca and so on among these people, Betty Snell and Walter Snell. And yet, here's this incredible encyclopedia dictionary entry talking about Kawiniri. It's a little hallucinogenic shrub and medicinal shrub that looks like chirisanango. So it's in the Brunfelsia group. Where the shrubs abound, jaguars also abound. In the visions produced, mostly jaguars are seen. If they took it a lot and went to sleep, their souls turned into jaguars and they went out to attack people. And so what the Matsigenka say is that if you take Kawiniri, it makes you a really good hunter. But the harpy eagle is like the good hunting spirit. The jaguar is the bad hunting spirit. So when you take Kawiniri, you turn into a jaguar and you attack and kill fellow Matsigenka. Which is why they haven't shown it to me yet. I haven't been able to collect it yet. And this brings me to the case of Cornelio. He's a dear old friend of mine. He just passed away 2015. He had the best pineapples. Every time I would come to arrive in Tayakome, he'd come with these amazing, huge pineapples, the best pineapples I've ever had. I don't know what he had, the magic of the pineapples. They're just the best, most delicious, biggest pineapples I've ever seen anywhere in the world. And he would always bring me a couple pineapples whenever he'd arrive. And he was also he was a great storyteller, and he was a master of pusanga, which is the love medicines. A lot of Matsigenka don't admit to that because it's considered to be kind of witchcraft. But he was from the Urubamba. He wasn't from the Mani. He was a recent arrival. And he accompanied the missionaries as they were coming, and accompanied the man who introduced psychotria to the Matsigenka through the missionaries, which is kind of funny too. Anyway, but he's known as a pusanga master, and he has this one. This is where you cue up that song for me at 19 minutes, just a little bit, just to get a sense of who he is. He's just got this whimsical voice, and this is a song where he's singing. It's a song that you sing to pusanga plants, and you talk about, he's a lonely man, he has no woman, he's seeing the pretty yellow flowers, the smell, and he's going to call himself a wife. So it's just a little excerpt of him singing this pusanga song. Sounds weird, doesn't it? Is that playing too fast? Something's wrong with that audio. Anyway, there's something wrong with the... So he's talking about the flowers, and so it's a beautiful song. It didn't work well in the translation. I don't know what happened. So in 2011, he started turning into a jaguar. He was losing weight. He would make these noises at night. He would snore. And a jaguar appeared on a trail near his house. And everyone said, that's Cornelio. He's turning into a jaguar. And I talked to him about this. And I said, Cornelio, what's going on? I heard you're not feeling well. He said, yeah. When I was a kid, they gave me kawiniri because they said it would make me a good hunter. But no one warned me that it would turn me into a jaguar. And now I'm an old man, and I've got all these grandchildren, and I'm growing fur. And I have these bad dreams. My wife's afraid to sleep next to me, and I'm turning into a jaguar. And the jaguar's been killing chickens and dogs. Next thing you know, it's going to kill one of my grandchildren. And the Matsigenka verb to turn into a jaguar is mai tagansi. Mai is like long hair, fur. It literally means to grow fur. And so the idea is that the outer covering of your body changes. You don't change inside, but it's very Viveris de Castro, the idea of transformation among bodies. It's the physical body that changes. If you read in the Amazonian anthropology, you'll recognize some of this multinaturalism. The idea of transformation is something that occurs between bodies, so that the body transforms. Mai tagansi, literally growing fur. Now, this sounds kind of cool, like, oh, wow, you take this thing, you turn it into a jaguar. It's kind of cool. It's not cool. So in the village, the neighboring village, Cornelius he's from Taikomi, the next village up, Yomiwato, 2014, when he'd been suffering from this jaguar transformation for about 3 or 4 years, and a jaguar killed 7 dogs in this village, killed 1 child, and mauled 2 adults, a single jaguar. And it's no joking matter, no laughing matter. And people said, that's Cornelio. We know it's him, because it was all the symptoms. And so and it's interesting why I was wondering why do they consider the Harpy? Because so many indigenous peoples in the Amazon love jaguars, and they like to turn into jaguars. The Matsigenka do not like turning into jaguars. And I sort of started thinking about this. Why is it that the Harpy eagle is like the good hunter and the jaguar is the bad hunter? And then think about it, it's like, well, it kind of makes sense. Harpy eagle, there's some video stills from the film The Spirit Hunters, narrated by James Earl Jones. It's so cool. Darth Vader himself narrates this film. It's kind of cool. You can find it on Vimeo. There's the link. We did that for the Discovery Channel, and I was in the room when he was narrating the film, and he was like, and thus the witch is a kind of dark shaman who consumes human souls. And we're like, having Darth Vader say that was kind of extraordinary. Anyway, but there's this little sequence at 44 minutes where we have footage, like actual live footage, of a Harpy eagle killing a squirrel monkey and take it to the nest and feeding to a chick. So the Harpy eagle kills monkeys and brings them to feed to their chicks. They eat it. Jaguars kill for fun, like all felines. They love killing. They play with things. And so, this jaguar killed 7 dogs and didn't eat them, just to play around. So I think maybe, I was just thinking about this the other day. I was like, well, maybe that must be it, right? So, and the idea is when you take kawiniri, which is owned by the jaguar, it's okay to be a little bit of a Harpy eagle, but it's not okay to turn into a jaguar, because then you kill wantonly and you kill your own children. And so, Emma Maris was a National Geographic journalist who was with me on this trip where we visited. Charlie Hamilton James, a brilliant photographer, took the photos, and then we on a different trip, and then he took the photo of the jaguar. Of the dog. And so anyway, she tells this story about how Cornelius. He was cured. A shaman gave him honey. Honey is the ultimate human food. Jaguars don't eat honey. Jaguars eat blood. So he got relief from his condition. A shaman gave him honey. He made these amulets, puirotiaki. It's a beetle, and it's considered like they give them to children. He made hundreds of these things for his grandkids. You wear them around your neck in little pairs, and they sort of click, clap, click, clap, click, clap. It's made out of cedar wood. It smells nice, and it makes this nice sound for children to wear, and it dispels bad spirits. So he was making hundreds of these things. But the symptoms returned. 2015, the jaguar came back, killed all those dogs in the village. His wife refused to sleep near him, and he passed away I saw him in November 2015, and he passed away just a few months later. And they wouldn't kill the jaguar while he was alive. But once he died, they killed the jaguar because they didn't want to be hurt by it. There's another solanaceous plant, which is kind of little known. It was a new genus in Peru, Juan Ulloa, named after Juan Ulloa, a famous Peruvian botanist. And it's a solanaceous vine. I gather those are sort of rare. And it's super, super potent. It looks just like, you see it, it looks totally like, it looks like Brugmansia on on a vine. And the Matsigenka don't use it for humans, but they give it to their dogs. And so they'll take, in Spirit Hunters, there's a scene where my brother-in-law, my Matsigenka brother-in-law, gives this to his dog. And basically what they do is they take Huanuyoa, they call it Paraense, which means the hanging flower, because it's got a big, nice, like datura, pretty, it's the flower that hangs from above. It's got this pretty white, yellow, brugmansia-like flower. And they take the Paraense and they mix it with, you can see in the picture sort of those little spines in the picture, that's peccary, fur from the peccary. So they'll take skin of a peccary, they'll take peccary scent glands. The male peccaries have a scent gland on their back. Isangoki, they call it, the scent place. And they take that and they'll take plants that smell like animals. There's certain plants that have a garlicky smell. So they'll take these, and they mix sanango with this. Tabernet Montana Sanango, they mix it with this as well. So they mix, Tabernet Montana, which is psychoactive. They mix Huanuyoa, which is psychoactive. They mix peccary, fur, peccary scent glands. There's a certain plant, they call it Igamachungari kemari, the blue flower of the kema, of the sachabaka, the taper. And this plant, the tapers go up to this plant and they chew its leaf. They ingest the leaves without chewing and swallow the leaves whole. They delicately go up and they get it with their tongue and they put it and they swallow it whole. And then it comes out in their intestinal tract. And the Matsigenka take that leaf out of the dung and it's infused with all the most intimate odors of the taper. And they put that in this mixture. So that basically what they're doing is they're using this mixture and they put wasps and chili peppers as well. And so they pour down the nostril, this poor dog, they just stuff it down the dog. And then the dog, when they put Huanuyoa in it, the dog will be like tripping for 3 or 4 days. But this process imprints, mixing psychoactives with painful things, with animal smells, it imprints the odor of the animal, and they say they become really great hunting dogs. And they sing this song to them, got pizza, don't bite your owner, bite the pecker, don't turn back on me, don't be afraid, go become pizza. And so they tell the dog, this is what you're going to do now. You're not going to be lazy. You're not going to bite me. You're going to bite peccaries and go hunt peccaries. So I think this is what everyone's been waiting. This is what actually Dennis told me to talk about. Among the hunting medicines, this is one of the more interesting things. Something new, I think. I've been talking with Colin about this possibility as well. Like the Matsigenka, like many indigenous people throughout the Amazon, they use what they call piripiri in Peru, they call priprioca in Brazil. And they're cyperus species. It's the papyrus family, actually. The sedges, it's what the Egyptians used to make paper out of. And the Matsigenka use it for everything. To facilitate childbirth, if a woman wants to have no more children, or have fewer children, or have lots of children, there's a piripiri, there's an ibenkiki variety for every one of those things. It can cure insanity. It can cause insanity if you take the wrong one. They use it to treat bad dreams and depression. Well, they don't have a word for it. They have a depression for ginkisiriagansi. It means when you think too much. You have bad dreams, someone dies, you think too much. You take this plant to not think so much about bad things. They use it to treat wounds, arrow wounds especially, snake bites. You can take it to be a good singer. Women take it to be better weavers. Talk about neurogenesis, huh? To be a better hunter, a better fisherman. Bickering spouses, there's one called kamet ibenkiki, good ibenkiki, to make bickering spouses stop bickering. And there's even one they call soraro benki, soldier ibenkiki, in the parts of the Matsigenka territory that were affected by Sendero Luminoso terrorism and the war in Brazil, the war in Peru. You avoid, when you go through a military checkpoint, the soldiers don't mess with you. You put this thing on, and Soldado Benki helps you get through military checkpoints with no problems. And so, this occurs all, the Matsigenka use it, the Shipibo use it, the Piro use it, the Baniwa in the northwest Amazon use it, the Yanomami use it, all the way over in Venezuela, up in the Guyana coast, the Makushi use it. It's all over the Amazon. And there's just almost nothing, there's so little done on this. And I compare it with ginseng. It's like the ginseng of the Amazon, and yet ginseng has who knows how many, 10,000, I don't know how many studies there have been done on ginseng. There's almost nothing done on this. But the cool thing is the Cyperaceae is one of the least used medicinal families in the world outside of the Amazon. It's paper. It's pulp, right? There's no pharmacologically active uses for paper, right? So, so I think ethnobotanists look at it, it's used for everything. It must be magic. It's a charm. And sometimes they wear, it's got these little roots that look like ginger. You wear them around your neck. This is a charm. It's not real. Well, it turns out, I mean, this is another great contribution of Timothy Plowman working with Keith Clay, who's a fungal expert from Indiana. These things are loaded with Balantia cyperea, which is a claviceptaceae. LSD, right? Ergot alkaloid. And so, so what happens is, now, and this is something Keith Clay has written about, this is a wild Cyperaceae, and this is a cultivated one. What's the difference? What's going on here? That little white button there, that is the Matsigenka word. Benki in Matsigenka means like a little button, like a little button, little seed. So Ibenkiki means the little button plant. And that button is, there's so much ergot fungus in this plant that it no longer has flowers. It kills the flowers, and it can't reproduce without human help. And so, but what Keith Clay found out is that in natural, they call it nutgrass in the United States, and cattle ranchers hate it. The cattle ranchers hate it because the cows eat it and get high off of the ergot, and they break a leg or they fall into a stream and drown. And so the cattle ranchers all through Texas, they're like trying to wipe out this nutgrass because there's actually a condition I was staggered to find out. It's called cattle staggers. It's a veterinary term for when cattle ingest cyperus nutgrass and become high and then mess up the cattle ranchers. The cows probably have a good time. And so what happens is Keith Clay proposes that these ergot, there's a symbiosis between ergot-containing fungi and this nutgrass, and at low doses, the ergot provides this fungitoxic effect. It protects from other fungi, and he's done these experiments where you get rid of the ergot and the plants are less resistant to other fungi. So it appears to be a symbiosis between the sedge, the nutgrass, and the ergot fungus to protect it. And then what the indigenous people of the Amazon have done is they reproduce it clonally through, they reproduce from the rootstock. So through selective breeding, they have upped the doses of ergot to the point where the plant can no longer reproduce. It's literally, I mean, there's the flower. There's no flower. And you can't identify it. That's another reason why ethnobotanists never got interested. You can't identify it because they never have flowers, almost never have flowers, because the flowers are destroyed by all this ergot. And if you think about ergot, childbirth, fertility, uterine contractions. I mean, back in the Middle Ages, ergot would cause abortions. Ergot is also a very powerful vasoconstrictor. St. Anthony's fire, right? People would get gangrene. It was such a power from ergotism. And what do they use it for? Wounds, snake bites, headache. Calf ergot is an over-the-counter, it's a pharmaceutical medicine for headache. It's caffeine and ergot. It cures headaches. They use it for treating headaches. Wounds and snake bites, it's a vasoconstrictor. It doesn't let the snake venom go up. It helps healing. And then, of course, all these become a good weaver, a good hunter, good fishing, bickering spouses. Maybe it's neurogenesis. But so you can see how it's this range of uses that appears contradictory until you realize that, and what in this study that Keith Clay and Timothy Plowman did, they found 8 novel ergot alkaloids in a single specimen from Ecuador. So it's also used in Ecuador. And so what may be happening, and this is just guesswork based on the literature, I'm guessing that each one, and there's dozens and dozens of varieties. So I'm guessing that about every sedge variety probably has a unique like cocktail of ergot alkaloids that have these differing effects. And here's a nice example where you can actually see on the same plant. This one, the flower is actually intact. It's kind of rare to see that. And on the same individual, you can see how the ergot fungus has destroyed the other flower. So this is my last mystery. Teribanto is a little, it's this, this picture on the left, it's this tiny, tiny little thing about this tall on the forest floor. It's a gentian violet, gentianaceae family, and it's a parasitic. It's called it's a parasitic species, no chlorophyll, and there's again you can listen to James Earl Jones talk about how the Matsigenka use it. No, there's no audio on this. What's going on? No, there's no need to play any audio on this. No, that's not. Just go back to the slide. That's the other audio things are for later on. The dessert. So at 40 minutes on this, and you can look at Spirit Hunters. It's on Vimeo, and there's this little scene where Mariano, my Matsigenka father, he picks up this it's called Voiria, the genus. He picks up Turibanto from the forest, these little yellow flowers, and he puts them in his grandson's eyes and puts them in my eyes. It's kind of a cool little scene. And so I never thought anything out more about this. What could it be, this little thing? And suddenly I'm reading Entangled Life by my friend Merlin, and he talks about Voiria tenella in, I think, Costa Rica or Panama, full of mycorrhizal relationships. And suddenly I'm like, wait a minute. Could this be another ergot where, with the case of Cyperus, of piri, the plant is just a vehicle for the ergot, I think, mostly. And so maybe, who knows? I don't think much is known about the fungal mycelia of Voiria. It's a different species in Panama, but it's the same idea. Could there be some sort of interaction between a fungal compound that makes it good for hunting? I don't know. It's a mystery. It's something to think about. So to sort of close out, there's all of this new work being done about these, like the multitudes within us, this idea of fractal life where you've got the virus and the fungus and the plant. That was another reference that Merlin sent to me that I found very interesting. Plant intelligence, of course, is this new field of inquiry. Our dear Monica here with that brilliant talk yesterday, the Wood Wide Web, anthropology beyond the human. Another friend of mine, Eduardo Cohn, has written a book about how can we think about these relationships, humans, plants, other beings, in these more complex and nuanced ways. And I think it opens doors of dialogue between the human and the natural sciences, and of course other realms, which I think are very promising. And of course, this goes back to the idea of plants as teachers, which several people have mentioned. Luis Eduardo's classic article about plants as teachers, where the mestizo shaman says the plant itself taught me this knowledge. And then in the paper that I wrote for the ESBD 50, I talk about how this concept of plants as teachers, when we come to understand that these molecules are messenger molecules that plants use to talk among themselves, then you can think about how there's this, again, it's like the Sangarite and Doug Hughes' work on the insect, the ants. They're not saying the same thing. I'm not saying that it's equivalent. But there's this interesting sort of synergy between scientific knowledge, indigenous knowledge about these interactions that, 10 years ago we would have said, oh, that's just, plants as teachers. It's just symbolism. It's just mythology. It's just superstition. But now we're finding the scientific bases for this sort of rampant communication that's going on under our feet that we never realized until recently. And of course, with the disruption of these organic networks of communication among all these species, we're getting this ecological spiritual vengeance being wreaked on ourselves, and all these environmental pathologies, individual pathologies at different scales. And there's also the question of technological change. The hunting work that I did, the hunting study, the particular hunting studies, it's a whole other realm of research. There's no time to go into it. But basically, what we did is we did some modeling to look at what would happen if the Matsigenka, if their population doubled. So we'd use the actual hunting data to create a model to look at, this is a heat map. So where it's red, spider monkeys are at carrying capacity. Where it's blue, there's no spider monkeys. And so these are the villages spatially, and these are the actual villages in Manu National Park, the 4 main villages. And so this is the current status. This is where the Matsigenka are. Basically, as bow hunters, when they get 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers from the village, they find lots of spider monkeys. If you let that double, it doesn't actually scale up that fast because of the effects of hunting. Hunting through the same zone. if we theoretically switch to shotguns, which are 10 times more powerful, suddenly you see this vast defaunated area. It increases the defaunated, basically the monkeys become locally extinct, and the villages start overlapping, their kill zones start overlapping to the point where you get monkeys that wiped out through a large part of the landscape. As I said, the Matsigenka mostly hunt with bows and arrows. Shotguns are technically illegal. But the other thing that we did with this is we looked at catch per unit effort. How long do you have to hunt? How many kilograms of meat for each hour of hunting? And when you go out into the future, what you find is that, there's a very in the beginning it's 10 times more fish. You get way more meat, way faster in the first 7-10 years. But after about 10 years, because you've wiped out the monkeys and the other animals in such a large range, you actually spend almost as much time as you'd be spending with a bow and arrow. So there's this minimal long-term benefit to human welfare and this terrible deficit to monkey populations. And of course, it also devalues all these traditional practices, which, well, you don't need the Harpy eagle anymore. I've got a shotgun, right? So, and now, of course, all of these new, COVID and the bats and the pangolins, and now we've got, monkey pox on the way. So you can see how these ecological disruptions are affecting everyone. And there's a paper that's in press, it should be out any day, in Science Advances. This hunting research that I did, got together with 30, it's one of those huge papers with 30 authors, of all the people who work on indigenous hunting and primates around the world. And basically, we modeled what is the extent of primate species ranges that overlaps with indigenous lands. And basically, the more the primate species range overlaps with indigenous lands, the better off they are in terms of IUCN recognized conservation status. And so the conclusion of the paper is that global primate conservation should focus on safeguarding indigenous territories, languages, practices, and beliefs. And these traditional hunting technologies, taboos, and medicines are all essential to this worldview. I'm done. This worldview, this more integrated worldview of a relationship where the hunter and the hunted are in a dialogue, and it's not just a one-way harvest kind of situation. So that's the end of my talk. Before I go on, I just want to thank, the bunch of funding agencies, lots of different phases, lots of different fieldwork phases. And I wanted to thank, there's no way to thank all the Matsigenka because it would be like all 2 villages, 700 people. But I do want to thank some of the elders who helped me and who have now passed on. Not some of them not so elders, unfortunately. Some of them died kind of young. But these are some of the people that helped me along the way who've since passed on. Mariano Vicente Quicha, Alejandra Kashiri, Marcial Vicente Chamoko, my brother, my Matsigenka brother, Juan Coshante Quispe, Cornelio, of course, and then Cesar Abanti Shubirerini, who just died last year. He was one of the top shamans, and he died very sadly last year. Not due to COVID, but sort of indirectly related to COVID because he got trapped because of the lockdowns in Peru and got into a bad situation and didn't make it. Couldn't get back to his village and couldn't get home because there was no way to get back. So anyway, I wanted to recognize those people before we go on to questions.
Okay, let's open the floor to questions. Any questions?
Great, let's go have tea. No, just kidding.
I'm very curious about the Ivankiki. With all the different uses that were there, was there any evidence of these plants being mixed together in their administrations instead of just dosed singly?
No, they use them separately. I mean, each plant. It's like you go to someone's garden, and they'll have 12 or 15 of these little clumps growing all over different places. And you say, what's that one? Oh, this is not my garden. Go ask the owner. And you ask the owner of the garden, what's that one? Oh, that one's for if you have a difficult childbirth. That one's for, if you don't want to ever have a child ever again. This one's for having better weaving. What's that one? Oh, that's my husband's. Ask him. You guys go, oh, that one's for hunting spider monkeys. That one's for hunting woolly monkeys. That one's for hunting fish. That one's for hunting. So they're very specific. And this one's to be, to not get fighting with your wife. So they're very specific in their uses. Yeah.
Would you say that most of these categories are applicable to different Arawak tribes near here, also in the Churua River, for example, or very endemic to the Manu and Alto Purus reserves?
You mean the hunting medicines or the
In general, these categories that you are explaining as pertaining to these people, you are thinking are proper for that linguistic group or very developed as response in this more secluded area of the Manu and Alto Purus?
Yeah, no, I mean, you find hunting, what they used to call hunting magic, you find it in lots of places. I mean, the Kambo, sorry to raise that touchy issue, but you know, the Kambo tradition, there's lots of hunting medicine traditions in different parts of the Amazon. I don't know of anyone who's looked at it in quite so much detail as I have. It's the kind of thing that pops up in ethnobotanical studies and ethnomedical studies, but it would be interesting to see like more in-depth studies about these sort of hunting medicines. I mean, the Kambo, there's a lot of study among the Machis about Kambo, but you don't hear much about the other plants. I'm sure there's other cases of these kind of these hunting plants. The Matsigenka seem to have sort of gone crazy about it. They really are into this stuff. Like half of their medicinal plants are related to hunting in some way. So it may be uniquely preserved in their case because of the fact that they still hunt with bows and arrows. I think that may be part of it. But I don't really know. I mean, maybe someone else here knows more about what about in Suriname? What about the hunting medicines in Suriname?
Absolutely widely used, totally destroyed by the missionaries.
Yeah. What does Schultes have to say about does he talk about hunting medicines where they're in Colombia?
The really interesting thing is in the northwest Amazon. You know, in the northwest Amazon, like the Barasana, the Macuna, Tanimucos, they very much have this idea of an ongoing dialogue with the natural world, is precisely around animals. And there's this kind of idea we have that the shaman is either a priest or a physician, but actually he's more like a diplomat who maintains a dialogue with the natural world, or a nuclear engineer who periodically has to go to the heart of the reactor to reprogram the world. And that's really what shamanism is about. People are surprised to learn that Barasana shaman have no interest whatsoever in medicinal plants, zero. Never use them, have no interest. But they have to maintain the energetic flows of life that were established at the beginning of time when the four thunders came up the Milk River and with Romikumu reestablished the balance of life upon which everything's based, right? And so the constant dialogue, but it's not, as you describe, a kind of malevolent or challenging dialogue. It's a constant dialogue, but it's sort of benign. But that dialogue does manifest itself with a remarkable impact on the ecological footprint, because there are all kinds of the hunting idea really becomes a kind of land management plan that actually reveals how people in huge concentrations once could live in the Amazon. Like the Barasana, they eat deliberately low on the food chain, and meat is reserved for the elders. The whole diet's based on insects and fish, And similarly, huge numbers of animals that they could hunt, they don't hunt for one reason or another. Rivers where fish spawn will have some mythological prohibition. I mean, it's an incredibly complex system. So I think that idea of maintaining dialogue with the animal realm, and that their most profound intellectual ideas that plants and animals are just people in another dimension of reality.
And then, of course, I mean, the concept of the dueño, that's actually very common all through the Brazilian Amazon, Colombian, everywhere. The idea of the dueño, the idea that the forest or the animals have an owner, and that you have to negotiate with that owner in order to have access to animals. That's very widespread. But the use of these medicines to facilitate that, I haven't seen it documented a whole lot, but I'm sure there's more to be. I'm sure it's there,
Okay, we got a question back here.
So the Ocarapage, the
Ocarapage, yeah.
Yeah, the Cordia nodosia, the ant plant symbiosis. So there are acacias that are exhibiting this. How related is that plant? And some of these acacias are also producing high amounts of tryptamines. Do we know much about that?
Yeah, no. Cordia nodosa is a boraginaceae,
Okay.
borage. So I mean, it is a medicinal family, and they actually use that plant for snake bite. I don't know if there's any. I would doubt there'd be anything psychedelic in it. But it is a borage family, which is an important medicinal family.
Well, thank you.
But they use. I mean, they take better psychedelic. I mean, they take Brugmansia right there. So they've got their own source of other things.
Just interested in process. Do they garden their medicinal plants? Do they create a space for them?
Well, mostly only the cypress, the sedges. Those are all cultivated. But other than that, there's a few. You know, they use guava for things. There's quite a few medicinal plants, but the vast, and this is one of the interesting things. You know, when you look in Mexico and Mexico and Middle East. North America, China, most medicinal plants in everywhere else in the world, they're weeds. Most medicinal plants are weeds. But among the Matsigenka, most of the plants are forest species, which is sort of an interesting dichotomy there. But yeah, most of their medicinal plants are wild, and there's a few cultivated ones. Most of the sedges.
Last question. I believe somebody over here.
Glenn, wonderful talk.
You've seen it all before.
Yeah, with great anticipation each time. So I was wondering if you could briefly talk about the evolution of the ayahuasca use, where you had mentioned it was primarily used for hunting, and now today you had mentioned as possibly also including healing, and the introduction with the psychotria by the missionaries.
Okay, well, cue it up, guys. I knew someone was going to ask the question, and I've got the slides. But this is the dessert. The Matsigenka seem to have a long tradition of cultivation of ayahuasca. They have at least 6 cultivated varieties that I've counted, and they recognize 2 wild species. But curiously, they did not use, at least the Matsigenka of Manu, did not use psychotria admixtures. They used other things. They used phytonia. They use geoganthus. They use these things. You know, it may be sort of a doctrine of sig. They say you take it and you see these patterns in front of your eyes. They boiled it for 8 to 10 hours. They say the effect is different. They say it's not like psychotria. It's a different effect. It gives you visions, but it's different. It's a different kind of effect. It's not like psychotria. And then, as I said, they learned about psychotria from the Matsigenka, bilingual Matsigenka guy who brought the missionaries in. Go figure. He said, you know about that stuff? We never heard of that stuff. And so they actually call it urobambashi. They still add these things to the psychotria mixture sometimes, but they use psychotria all the time. And they call it urobambashi, which means the leaf from the urubamba, because that's where they said the plant grew there. They didn't bring the plant, but the knowledge came from the urubamba. So they call it urobambashi. But the curious thing, this is mystery number 7, like dessert. It's not viridis. I've collected flowering samples, dozens and dozens. They recognize viridis, and they call it bat psychotria. They say, you can't take that. That's what the Shipibo take. We don't take that. It makes you see bats, makes you see snakes, makes you see bats. That's not cool stuff. We don't like that. This is urubambashi, true urubambashi. That's urubambashi of the bat, of the anaconda, whatever. We don't take that. The Shipibo take it. And I've collected it. Every one of the bat urubambashis is P. viridis, every single one of them. And every one of the psychotrias that they take is something else. I don't know what it is. It's nothing in the Manu flora. It must be identified. I have to send it off to specialists, but nothing in the Manu flora. There's nothing else in the Manu flora that's like this. It's the closest thing is viridis, but it's either a subspecies. It's not cultivated. It grows in the floodplains near the river, but it's something else, and it's very distinctive. They recognize it all the time. They recognize it. They has these little veins. They has these little. I think they're domatia. There's these little. They call them nails that are under the leaf side, and it's the leaf's a little bit longer. The bat psychotrias, the viridis is a little bit round. So it's a different thing, and so this thing came in recently, and they fully adapted it. And this sort of ayahuasca healing, the missionaries didn't bring it. I'm not saying the missionaries bring it, but as a side effect of being missionized, this guy introduced it. And they and this sort of ayahuasca, this sort of vegetalismo healing is coming to the Matsigenka more and more in the more, the sort of standard model of vegetalismo, and the guy sings and heals. That's coming. But traditionally, it was really used for hunting. And I don't know if it's going to have that weird sound, but if you want to play if it has that weird munchkin, that sounds good. So this is an ayahuasca song. So you can't really understand. It's not an ordinary language. They use grammatical forms that aren't otherwise. They use vocabulary words. You can't understand a lot of it. Anyway, just wanted to give a taste of that. And then the next audio is the best in the world. It's the pegompi. These are the one-string flutes. The audio 3 or 2. Oh no, don't forget about that. There was another audio that's the one-string violins. Anyway, could you find that? It's audio 3, I think. It's called pegompi. And they play this. They use this to call the sangarite. They say it speaks the language of the sangarite, and it's extraordinary. Where do we have that? Just a quick taste of that. Pegompi. No, it's the other one. That's that one. Play the pegompi. Yeah. And they modulate the sound by opening. It's like a wah-wah pedal. They modulate the sound by opening. Doesn't sound like much, but on ayahuasca, it calls the sangariti towards you. And so, these, the sort of non-ordinary language of the songs, you can't really understand it. It's all about non-verbal and non-visual. They take ayahuasca in complete darkness because you want to see the true, see the true world. If there's any spark, flashlight, it wipes it out. You got to be in total darkness so you can see the reality behind. And they use all this non-ordinary language and these sort of non-verbal cues to bring that experience on. Yeah. So I guess. Oh, is there another question?
Tested for DMT or 5-methoxy? Or?
It must have it.
You don't know.
I don't know what species it is, but it would be interesting to look at. And I've always thought it'd be interesting to look at to collect them in the rainy season, the dry season, to see if the composition changes. Be an interesting question.